Hello, and welcome to this very impromptu submission for Billy Hatcher and the Giant Any Percent. That might have been very loud, I'm sorry about that. I PB'd in this yesterday, and I got reminded that this marathon was coming up, and we as the Billy community really wanted to get something into the marathon, so I guess I'm gonna have to submit this, so we're doing it. I guess I'm just gonna get started. Alright, so Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg. This is a 3D platformer made by Sonic Team. It came out in 2003 exclusively on the GameCube. It didn't sell very well, mainly in North America. It's not very well known. It's a pretty overlooked game. But, you know, I guess at the beginning of a run, or like of a marathon run, people always go into all of the things you can do with the eggs and how the game works and all of the different mechanics. But I think that's always like a bit of a information overload, so really all you need to know. This is like the most Nintendo game that Sonic Team have ever made. It's I guess you could say it is very similar to Super Mario Sunshine, where there are 7 stages and you do a bunch of missions in each stage and you have to do them in order and you can't skip any, and it's not like Mario 64 where you can just get any star, but instead the missions will be different and like all of the objects in the level will be different depending on which mission you select. And you just have to do a bunch of levels to unlock the final level. I guess the difference is that you have to do a specific amount of levels, but it doesn't really matter which ones you play. And then also the types of levels will be the same in every stage. Like there's not a lot of variety there. And some of them are definitely way faster than others, but luckily there are just enough levels that we can also reach quickly that are just fast enough. So it makes for like a pretty fast game, like just over an hour basically. The first level is already pretty tech heavy, but I think it's probably better not to like introduce all of the tech at once because there's so much in this level. The important thing about this game is we're controlling eggs. We can go fast with the eggs. We can do a bunch of like combat moves and also just, well, movement tools that we don't have otherwise, like dashing and rolling and egg bouncing, which is like kind of similar to a ground pound, but it's also just a jump that gives you a lot of height. And like not really the most important thing, but like a very important aspect of the speedrun is that eggs have like kind of wonky physics, so we can abuse them like that. So like get to places we're not supposed to, or just skip a lot of parts of the game. But at the end of the day, it mainly comes down to your movement and about going fast and schmoving. We do have wall clips. There's not that many actually. The important thing about eggs is that if you want to hatch them, you have to grow them. And eggs, depending on how big your egg is, it might give you some advantages or disadvantages. But what we have to do in the first mission of every stage is we have to reach the golden egg and hatch it. And this will save the chicken elder, and the chicken elder will bring back morning, because the whole plot of the game is that the evil crows have stolen the morning, so we need to bring it back in every world. And that's not enough, we also have to get enough emblems of courage to prove that we are courageous enough to actually take down Dark Raven, who is very similar to Ganondorf. Like there's like a lot of lore there about the giant egg and how it works. It's basically the Triforce. Like I don't know, if you hatch it, you get a wish or something. I don't know. I don't remember the lore. It's something like that. But we can't let that happen. We have to save the giant egg and we have to save Morningland. And that's the game. Basically, we have to get 25 of those emblems of courage. There are 56 in total. I'm also submitting the all levels category where you get all of them, but I'm not going to record a submission video like this for that. But yeah, the next type of level that is always the same is boss levels, which is always the second mission in every stage except for the last one. And this is basically just a get from A to B kind of level. And then at the end you have to fight the boss. Rails are a pretty notorious part of the game. I think this is actually the only rail that we're using in the entire run. If you've ever played the game normally, or if you've watched someone play it, you will know that the rails are everywhere. And they don't really behave the way you would expect. And also this is a trick where you have to get like a specific camera, be on a very specific spot. And if you get hit by the cats, it's kind of over, but we can take our time to set it up. That's like another kind of like physics exploit you will see in the game, where you can use certain objects to launch yourself. That was what we call a sign boost, where you bounce or jump into a sign from like a very specific position, and then the way signs work is like, if you're inside of them, they will eject you, and if you enter them with a lot of momentum, that will like convert into the speed that it ejects you out of it. Does that make sense? The bosses in this game are pretty straightforward. It's like the typical type of boss you will see in most games, where they do an attack, you wait it out, and then you hit them. There's one boss that does not apply to, but this is Gecko. He's pretty straightforward. We're gonna have to bait out the tail swipe attack, and generally what we try to do is we want him to be in the middle of the arena when he's done with his attacks, because he's always gonna walk to the middle of the arena. So ideally we would like to reduce the amount that he walks for to the absolute minimum. And I guess one thing that I should mention is that depending on how big your egg is, it'll actually do different amounts of damage, and for boss fights it's pretty important to grow your egg. Because otherwise, like if I didn't grow the egg there, that would have been the 5th phase, and it would have been pretty tragic. And that is called clamming the emblem, if you miss it. For reasons. That's pretty bad, actually. You don't want to miss the emblem 3 times. But it's okay. And now there's always a cutscene after every single boss level. Now the way the game works is that once you've done the 2nd mission in a world, you will unlock the next one. And then you can either go to the next world or keep playing in the world that you're already in. So there's actually a lot of freedom to the route. Like everyone who plays any percent plays the same 27 levels, but you're actually like more or less free to choose in which order you want to do them. What I'm doing is I'm doing a modified version of what we call boss rush, which means you do the first 2 missions in every stage and then do the rest of the levels, just because the boss levels are known to be pretty difficult and pretty daunting. But there's another level in the early game that I find really scary, which is for a 6, so I try to get that out of the way. And then I do boss rush, basically. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what you do. This is Pirate 1. This is like arguably the most straightforward Golden Egg level. It's pretty short. I believe Pirate Island, or Pirates Island actually, was originally supposed to be the first world of the game. There is a demo disc that has a demo for this game, where you can play a very early version of this level. Yeah, you just go to the beach, get the egg, get the fruit, and then hatch him. We always try to hatch the Elder, like right next to where the emblem spawns. So that we don't have to waste time getting to the emblem, especially because moving without an egg is really slow. Sometimes the camera messes you up here, so I always like to take my time there and check what the camera will be. Because the camera is always supposed to be behind of you after cutscenes, but it doesn't always work that way. The next level is pretty infamous. Definitely, maybe not a run killer because of how early it is, but it's definitely a level that most runners don't really enjoy. Just because there's no luck involved, but there's controller dead zones involved that don't work very well. In this level we're going to use some cannons to launch ourselves, and we can abuse them as you would expect. I guess in that way it is kind of similar to SM64. But this is the only stage in the game that has cannons. You can do a tiny shortcut there by bouncing off of that wall. That only saves a couple seconds. And this is the big one. You're supposed to go through like a cave and then go on a rail, but you can just hit like a... And this is what I was talking about when I said the controller dead zones are not your friend. I'm hoping that works. I don't actually know. Oh god, it did not work. Yep, that's what you get for mentioning that. Sometimes you have it like instantly. Also, one thing that's really funny about this is that like everybody uses a different setup. Just get that, please. Oh no, that works. Yeah, that's pretty tragic, but it's okay. So in this boss fight, Captain Glare, we're gonna abuse the way damaging bosses works. Generally, there's always a damage cap where in every single phase you can only hit them a specific amount. This guy is gonna try to jump at us, and the way it works is that when he's jumping, he's actually always vulnerable. So we're gonna try to get some extra hits in that way and kill him as soon as we can, basically. I'm gonna camp on this spot because I'm waiting for a fruit to respawn. But I'm just gonna do this over and over again. He's gonna jump at me, I will dunk at him. The shockwave of the dunk is big enough to hit him. And we're gonna come over to the pineapple, dunk him there, and egg shoot him, and that does the trick. And hopefully, I will get the emblem like that. Yeah, you can jump into the egg as it comes back to you, and then that'll push you into the emblem. Very cool optimization. Now there's always a cutscene here, which I guess is a good time for donations. It's not always, like, the length is always the same, but it's not a long cutscene. And this is a place that we will see much later in the run. Don't worry about that just yet. I've also done this after Forest 2. I'm just gonna pause and select. Normally, what you're supposed to do is talk to the Elder, and that'll boot you out of the level. And you have to do that if you want to save the game. But I'm feeling pretty good about the game. I don't think I need to save. Now we're gonna race King Klippen. This is your typical race level, you know, Cooper the Quick, Il Piantissimo. We're just gonna race the CPU to the end. There is a trick in this level that we call... Well, the original version is called Clip and Yeet, but there's also Super Clip and Yeet, which is what I'm going to attempt. Where we can actually manipulate the CPU to reach the goal a little bit faster than he's supposed to. You see that there's this bridge over here. Well, now you can't see it anymore because I'm unloading it. Basically, there's a bridge there that he's supposed to walk over, but when it's not there, because I'm far away from it, he's gonna jump instead, and by like loading it and unloading it like that, we're gonna confuse him a little bit, and he's gonna like... I think I actually missed it. That's hilarious. Well, you know what? Just trust me, alright? I think I was a little bit too early. Oh well. It's going great. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's not a very long level. No matter if you get the yeet or not. In the next level, we're gonna save our friend Rolly. Billy has 3 friends that all got abducted by the crows. We have to save them before they blow up. And if you save a friend, that gives you an extra mission in every single stage where you can play as the friend. And some of them are kind of fast, so we would like to save them. And also saving them is pretty fast. We're not gonna save all of them. We're gonna get Rolly and Bantam. There's a mysterious third character that we don't talk about. We're not gonna see him. But yeah, in this level you can kind of just skip everything by bouncing on that pipe. Normally this level is a little bit longer. You have to go like all the way around the island. But you don't have to do that. Because this is really like a go where you want to go type of game. Like if you can see an area, you can go there. There are no invisible walls or kill planes or anything that are gonna stop you. So yeah, you have a 5-minute timer for those. You can just clear it in like 20 seconds, so it's not that bad. That was 21 seconds because I'm bad. But you know, playing the game and talking over it at the same time is very hard, okay? Like if I were to play this at Hotfix, I would actually just let other people commentate for me, and I'm just gonna focus on playing the game. Because it's not easy. This level is not easy. Pirate 5, this has the anchors that you saw in Pirate 3, except they're gonna be a lot faster this time. And also the pattern is random. There's only like a specific amount of patterns, but you always have to check which pattern you're getting, and depending on which pattern you get, you have to go like a slightly different way or do a slightly different timing. And then here we're gonna use the cannons again to get to this platform early. And now this cutscene will start, and now they're gonna shoot a bunch of fire arrows that are protecting this island with the switch. But because we can get here early, we can just kind of ignore that. Normally you're supposed to hatch Clippin, who is one of the animal buddies, and you can use Clippin to put out the fire. But you don't have to do that. Even if you mess up the trick, you don't have to hatch Clippin, because there are backups. But yeah, that's a pretty cool strat. That was actually one of the strats that sold me on this game. I was watching someone do runs of this game, and I saw that, and I was like, man, that's so cool. I'm going back to Forest because I want to get Forest 6 out of the way, which is why right now I'm doing Forest 3. The friend missions you can do whenever you want. The only reason I do Forest 3 before Forest 6 is because this is how I always used to do it, and I don't want to have to delete my goals if I want to do Forest 6 early, which honestly I should, because that level is kind of the bane of my existence. But yeah, route changes are actually pretty common in this game. Like, people will always maybe like consider changing their route if they have like a specific level that they struggle with. Rare instance of a KBC again. KBC is a knockback clip, which works if you're holding an egg and like your back is up against the wall and you're airborne. If the egg takes damage, bro, this cat is impossible to kill. If the egg takes damage, then Billy will get knocked back, and then during that knockback animation, the game doesn't check for collision. So you can just go straight through the wall, but it only works when you're jumping. Or when you're falling, I guess. And you don't have to use an egg. You can also use enemies or other things that'll damage you, but using an egg is the easiest way probably, or at least the most commonly seen way, because you can do it wherever you want basically, because bigger eggs will always damage eggs that are smaller than them. So that's pretty convenient that you can just kind of damage yourself wherever you want. This level is pretty rough because there's a clip at the start where you have to clip off of an enemy, and you have to make sure that Rolly's hitbox touches the hitbox of the enemy, and both of those hitboxes are pretty tiny. You have to like manipulate. Yep, you love to see it. You know what? Just to show it off. Normally, if that happens, I would just kill them and live with it. But I guess if you want to see it, we could try again. Yeah, like that. I was afraid I would go so far left that I would go back in bounds, which can happen. And it's absolutely tragic if that happens. Here, you want to make sure that you dodge these bees. They can really ruin your day. They can snipe you out of the air. And this is also not the way you're supposed to go, by the way, but the developers knew that you can go this way, which is why they placed that switch there. So that's pretty cool. Now I have to do a backup because the D didn't do what I wanted it to do. That's awesome, by the way. You know, I always say that trick is like actually unfailable, and it is, but you know, I'm gonna try to unload the B. There you go. Kinda rough. You know, there's a reason I like to do that level early. And now we're actually going to the third world, finally, Dino Mountain. Which you might recognize from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. This is also potentially a level where RNG might come into play, and also where version differences might come into play, but I will only talk about that if the RNG is nice. If not, we're gonna see it later. But ideally, I would really like to have any of these dinos give me cherries or pineapples. And if we can get that, then funny things will happen. And I think I'm getting melons, if I saw that right. Well, watermelons. That's not much better. Oh, there's another chance. That's not gonna happen. So we're just gonna go over here, skip the gate. Gates are just a suggestion. Pick up the... Okay, I feel like maybe I'm actually trolling right now. I had a feeling I missed a fruit somewhere. I guess I did. Oh, there's backup fruit everywhere. This talk to the Elder is kind of silly because sometimes he doesn't want to talk to you after the cutscene because the green hoop is going to interfere with it. So basically you cannot talk to him as long as the green hoop is bouncing for some reason. Unless you talk to him on the first frame after the cutscene. So if you get like a crazy mash, he will talk to you, but he will not talk to me. And now he will. But yeah, that's the level. And now we're getting to Dino 2, which is, I don't know, it's a pretty infamous level. It's definitely one of the hardest levels in the run. Also one of the most punishing levels, like potentially the most punishing level, at least in any percent. There is a chance of soft locking in this level, in which case you have to do it again, which loses you like, I don't know, a minute and a half or 2 minutes, probably more like 2 minutes because there's a lot of cutscenes. We're gonna hatch Richie. I think this is the first instance in the run where we're actually using an animal body. So Richie has the power of ice and illusions. A joke that I read the other day was that the illusion is that Richie actually functions as intended, which he doesn't. We're gonna do a sign bounce here, which is a different thing from a sign boost, which we did earlier. In this case, we're egg bouncing into the sign, but the result is kind of similar. It gives us a lot of distance. Like, sign bounces are a great way to cover a lot of horizontal distance, but like, it's not always the fastest option, but sometimes like a jump will not be enough, so you have to do something like that. We're gonna do a big jump here to skip the entire slide. You don't have to get that banana, but I like to grow my egg to make these upcoming jumps easier. So what we're doing in this level, as you've just seen, was we're using Richie to kill these bone dragons. I know they are dinos, but they are officially called bone dragons. We have to kill them all by throwing Richie at them. What kind of sucks about them is you have to be on the platform for them to actually die. So basically, if you jump down too early, then the animation will not play and the hit will not count, and you have to go back and shoot them again. And of course we're missing the cycle, because why not? There's a cycle that you want to catch. That's like one reason why this level is hard. If you die too early here, like as the Bone Dragon is dying, then you will soft block because the hit will not register, but when you try again, like the dragon will already be dead, so you can't kill him again. In which case you have to restart the level. And I might actually, well, I'm not saving time over my PB. Well, I am. This was one of the more tragic levels in my PB. I got a little bit trolled by the game. Topo used to be, probably still is, the most unpopular boss in the game. The main reason why we don't like this guy is because he is basically just an auto-scroller, but arguably the most recent discovery in the game, or at least the most recent important discovery, is that there is a trick to defeating the boss slightly faster, that's like 10 seconds faster compared to what we used to do, where we're gonna play with the damage caps here. Because normally what we used to do was, hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What we used to do was we would just hit him as much as we could, as much as we could. But the problem is if you do that, he will then move on to do his next phase, where he's gonna throw out a wall of fire, and then he's gonna throw a bunch of meatballs at you. But as it turns out, if you only hit him 9 times, you don't hit him enough for him to transition into the next phase. And he's gonna do the first phase attack again, which is significantly faster. And you wanna make sure your egg is fully grown at this point. Otherwise you're not gonna hit him enough. If you don't hit him enough, you will get an extra phase. Or alternatively, you can do some manipulation strat where you hit him with a small egg and then with a big egg. So you're like slightly below the damage cap, and then by hitting him with the big egg, you will override the damage cap. Hopefully, that's not gonna happen. I will just say I kind of like zoned out and didn't even realize that my egg wasn't fully grown yet, but I think it grew just in time. At this point, if the egg cracks, it's fine, but obviously I don't want it to crack, but yeah, that's awesome. I'm gonna stand on this spot and make him stop there, because this will be exactly opposite of where the emblem spawns. So now hopefully I should be inside of the emblem, or at least very close to it. I might be missing it, but it's fine, right? Yeah, it's fine. There's one more level we want to do in Dino, but we're gonna need our friend Bantam for that, and we're gonna save him much later in the run. That's Dino for now. We're gonna move on to Blizzard, which is a world that you will definitely recognize if you've played either of the Sonic and All-Stars racing games. There are, I believe, 2 tracks based on this game in the first one, and then another one in the second one, which is kind of strange. I don't really remember the ones from the first game. The one in the second game is definitely not very similar to the level in the game at all. But it's cool. This is a very cool level. This is the first time we're actually going to see what we call Elder Cutscene Skip. You can do it in Dino 1 if you get the RNG, but in this level the fruit is always consistent, so we can definitely hatch him when we want to hatch him. Actually, it's a her in this level. The Elder is called Pony. We're gonna jump down to where we just were after killing these enemies. Because there's a lot of fruit down there. And then we're just gonna hatch her and then kill ourselves. And then by dying, we're gonna skip the cutscene. Did I just miss the pineapple? No, I didn't. I was so scared of that, I actually thought I just missed it. That was kind of scary with the cat trying to kill me. But it's okay. I'm not really saving time anymore because I checked to make sure that I got the pineapple. But it's fine. That was the trick. Normally, like, before we had that trick, you would have to collect the fruit on the slide here, which is actually easier said than done. Navigating the slides, it's not that hard, but getting the fruit on the slide is definitely kind of difficult. And if you play the PAL version of the game, you actually still have to do that, but I believe there's not a single PAL player left these days. Like, I used to play on PAL, but I switched to NTSCU because it has a couple of tricks that are exclusive to that version, and this is one of them, and arguably the biggest one. Thanks for the Have Fun Thighs Fire, or Thighs Fire, I don't know. Blizzard 2, this is another level where we're gonna see an animal body. You might remember that in the very first level, I hatched the one egg before I grabbed the emblem. And by doing that, I skipped the cutscene of the little buddy coming out of the egg. Because normally every time you hatch an animal buddy the first time, there's like a little text box that introduces them. And it stays on screen for like 3 seconds. But by doing that in the first stage, I've already hatched the egg, and it counts as having been hatched. So, now we get to skip the text box. We still get to watch the cutscene of, like, him coming out of the egg and, like, him befriending us, which just happened when I was inside of that wall there. Okay, ideally, I would like to not miss these snow machines. I guess they are called snow machines officially. We have to kill or, like, destroy all 3 of them. And apparently that stops the blizzard. Or something like that. I mean, the blizzard is still there in the other missions, I think. Although I could be wrong. Actually, I might be wrong. I don't know. But yeah. Coming up is Molds, who is actually a seal, but he's called Molds. This is the only boss that doesn't have a damage cap, so you can just hit him as much as you want within, like, a certain window. So the strat here is to grow your egg as fast as you can. If you're insanely lucky, you can kill him in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can theoretically kill him in 2 phases, which is what's called the God cycle, but that never happens. Only a couple people have ever done that. It's never going to happen. Also, I actually got pretty good luck here. You are looking for watermelons here. I'm gonna try and damage him in this phase. Collect the remaining fruit. Now we're gonna make him hit the wall. And kill him. So it's a pretty fast boss, but obviously there is luck involved. And sometimes the ice balls will do their best to run away from you. And you have to break them if you want to get fruit. And that's like, you can't really defeat this boss without collecting fruit. It just takes forever. And he also deals so much damage as well. Coming up is Circus 1, which is probably the bane of every speedrunner, or at least of like high-level players, because this is the most important RNG-based level. There's not a lot of RNG in the game. Mostly it's just like fruit RNG that might sometimes make a difference of like a couple seconds, but in this level it can really make a difference of like up to half a minute or so. We're gonna try to hatch our golden egg, for which we need 48 points, which I haven't really talked about the fruit yet, but basically every fruit is worth a specific amount of points, and some fruit are better than others, depending on the egg that you have. And if you're really unlucky, you're only gonna get 46 points here, but you need 48 points to hatch the egg, so if that happens you have to wait for a fruit to respawn. And if you get really lucky you get pineapples and cherries, which is the good fruit. You have to kill the penguins here to unlock this little hoop. I might be bonking against the cage. That's okay. If you've played the game normally, you will remember the rail section here. But as I said, in Forest 2, that's the only rail we're using, because we can do that. The trick to the rails is you have to jump onto them. Like, the game tells you to walk onto them, or like to push the egg onto it, which is absolutely true. That is a way you can do it, but it requires a lot of finesse. And we get pineapples, which is what we want. Now we have to just pick up these extra fruit there. And these ones. And that's the level. If you don't get pineapples or cherries from the big cat, you have to kill all of the enemies and collect, or like all of the small enemies and pick up everything. And then you pray that it's enough, and if it's not enough, you have to wait for the big pineapple to respawn. Because the pineapple and the watermelons around it are the only fruit that will respawn. Also, you can see that this level did not go so well in my PB because I got pretty unlucky, but I didn't get the worst RNG. Coming up is Circus 2. This is another like big trick heavy level. That's pretty scary. This is definitely one of the most difficult levels, you could say. It's not actually that difficult. But it's definitely a very daunting level, and it's one of those levels where sometimes you can just miss it. We're gonna do a PDR, which is actually spelled PEDR. Some people say PEDR, but most people just say PDR. Which stands for Pedro's Egg Dash Ricochet, which is the trick where you egg shoot and then you dash into the egg and jump, and that gives you a lot of height. We're gonna use that to go out of bounds twice, ideally. We're gonna jump over the invisible wall here and driver and then dash jump. And that skips the first room where you have to like hit a mirror and hope you get the correct one, and then hit a bunch of switches. And now we're gonna do it again. And go over here and kill the enemies. And now technically you're done, but there is a switch that you have to hit that's surrounded by fire. If the fire pops your egg, then you have to restart the level. So don't do that, because you will be soft locked because there's no backup egg there. The safe strat is you break the mirrors in the room with the cats, and then you can go back and pick up an egg. But yeah, if you don't break the mirrors, then it's kind of over. And that's also a pretty decent Circus 2, I would say. It's definitely a level that I have lost a lot of runs to. And now we fight Saltum, pretty fun boss. He's gonna like hide in these mirrors. We're just gonna grow the egg again. And then make sure we wait in a specific spot to set up the mirrors. Because ideally, we want to hit him in such a way that we can like easily pick up a melon, like as soon as it respawns, basically. And then if we grow the egg, then it'll be enough to kill him. So we're gonna make sure to break the mirror. I'm just gonna run into it, and we can kill him. And it's still a pretty quick boss. Honestly, one of the more fun bosses in the game, also because it's actually very easy. So coming up is the last regular world, or at least the last world where we hatch a golden egg. Like, morning we'll be back to every single world, except for Giant Palace, which is where we are ultimately trying to go. Yeah, this is the pyramid where we're gonna go now. It has been teased since the second level. Now we're finally going to see it. We're not gonna talk to Alani. Also, fun fact, the chicken elders are named for the Hawaiian words for their respective colors. So Alani would be orange in Hawaiian. Also internally, the level names are just colors, if you look at the game files. So this is yellow, also known as Sand Ruin. You can do that jump and roll out of the green hoop to skip the first section of the level. We're just gonna go up the pyramid, and then at the top we're gonna find the golden egg that contains Mary Mary, the Elder of Sand Ruin. This is a pretty cool level, very movement based. How well can you press the R button? Stuff like that. And this level also contains an Elder cutscene skip. Technically, you can do Elder cutscene skips on every level, but it's not always fast for various reasons, or alternatively, it's not possible. Depending on like, well, it's not possible to grow your egg in a convenient spot. But mostly it just means that it's not faster, unfortunately. But in this level, it's actually the fastest out of all of the levels that contain it. It's also the hardest, or at least the hardest to actually get the skip. We're just gonna hatch right next to the edge there. And that looks a lot easier than it is, because you do not have a lot of frames there. Like, if you are slightly too far from the edge, the cutscene will start before you die. And then you have to watch the entire thing. That's the level. And now coming up is Sand 2, which is the reason why people do the boss rush route. Arguably the hardest. It's probably not the hardest level to do at a high level. Also, I just beat the level in 69 seconds and 69 centiseconds. Pretty cool. But yeah, this level contains two tricks that are considered hard and run killers. The first one is Torch Skip, which skips the Rising Sand Room. At first, we have to kill all of the enemies, get a nice combo. We wanna... Dude, I was really hoping the dino would die. Get the fruit. Kill the bees. Or beans, as they are actually called. Now we go into the underground. This level has a lot of underground sections, and that's like the main way you get around, by going into the underground and going back up. This is Torch Skip. It's basically just a sign bounce, except it behaves a little bit differently, which is why it's a little bit confusing. But that's the trick. You bounce into the torch. Sounds easy, right? Coming up is Fami Skip, which is named after Mr. Fami, which is why it has that weird name. Where we skip the fog room. We're gonna go to this area that you are absolutely not supposed to go to by doing that. And now we can do this. And now we have to manipulate a bee to clip off of it. And boom, that gets us right to the boss portal. And that is normally considered the hardest trick in the game. It's actually not that hard once you understand it, but it's definitely very hard to learn. Like, it has taken me probably multiple hours to get just once, but once you understand it, it's not that hard to replicate, but it has a lot of moving parts that you have to understand, and also there's a lot of things like auto camera turns that are gonna mess you up that you have to be aware of. And also, at the end of the day, it's just a very chokeable trick. Like, if you mess up the B manipulation, you're not gonna get it. If you mess up the dash jump, you're not gonna get it. Like, the jump across is actually very tight. I wanted to push him into the corner, but that's okay. You can dodge these shots if you just wait, like, behind Glur. This is the typical boss where you're just seeing, like, repeats of all of the bosses you fought so far. Very original. We're gonna do some manipulations here where, as you see, I just picked up the apple and then I did 2 egg shots before I hit him. And the reason why I do that is because I want the apple to respawn when I hit him the next time. And if I didn't do that, then the apple wouldn't respawn fast enough. So you do the egg shoots to stall a little bit. We're gonna hit him once with this size egg, get the egg, hit him again, and that way we can like override the damage cap and hit him more than we are supposed to. Here you have to find the correct clone. It's always the one with the shadow. We're gonna make moles hit the wall because we want him to travel as little as possible, obviously. Now we get this egg because it's smaller. So we can hit him once, are still under the damage cap, hit him again. And now, by doing all of that, you can actually skip 2 phases of the boss fight. And we're not even gonna see the Sultan clone. Sultan being the monkey that we fought in Circus. But that's all of the bosses, at least for now. The next thing you have to do if you want to beat the game is you have to go to Sand 3 and beat that level, and that will unlock the final level. But unfortunately, there's like a little chicken there that's like, I don't even know what Courage is. I think Courage is having 25 emblems, and I think you have to have 25 emblems if you want to beat the level. So we have to get to 25 emblems now. We're gonna go back to some of the previous stages. I've already done optional levels in Forest and Pirate, but we are going to go back to every other world to do some short levels. And for this, you can actually just pick and choose. The only limitation is that you have to do the levels in order. So there are some levels that are really fast, like Forest 5 and Dino 4, that we don't do because the levels before them are really slow. So we're doing the fastest levels that are also the fastest to reach, if that makes sense. In this level, you're supposed to do the puzzle board, like set everything to blue, but you can also just do this, or you don't. You can try it again. This is a pretty finicky trick. It's not that tight, but the tightest thing is actually getting up on the thing without losing the egg. And that skips the board, which I guess is pretty cool because the board is also random every time. So depending on the pattern that you get, it might be slower sometimes, it might be faster sometimes. We're gonna hatch this egg because we really need Reki. Because the problem in this level is that the clock tower has stopped, or the clock on the clock tower has stopped after 100 years. So we have to use Reki, who has the power of lightning, to recharge all of the batteries. And that's a trick you can do here, which we call dupe, which stands for, no, that's not dupe, dupe is double out of bounds. This is just double bat, which is short for double battery. You can shoot Reki through the wall, and that hits 2 batteries ideally. It's kind of a tight angle. That's not that tight. And we're gonna hope that that hits. That's always a scary shot. That's like arguably the hardest shot because you always do it blind. But yeah, now we watch the super long cutscene. This level is still fast, even though it has the cutscene. The cutscene is not very fast, but this also unlocks Circus 4 and 5, which are very fast. So it is worth it. It's not the fastest level. I think this might be the slowest optional level that we do in the entire run. But it's okay. It's fine. The main reason it's slow, obviously, is because of the cutscene. Like, by IGT, it's not that bad. It's like a minute, or like less than a minute, ideally. Obviously, because of the failed double bat, it was like a minute 10. No, not double bat. Board skip. Board skip is what I failed. I nailed double bat. So now we're doing Circus 4. That's a trick here that I only do when the run is bad, but I am currently behind by a minute 45, which means I will do it. And it is pretty swaggy. There is a sign boost you can do in this level that saves like a second maybe. You have to use like a specific texture cue to set it up, and like sometimes it's kind of difficult to find that. It should be that. Ugh, maybe not. I'm gonna try that again, I think, because I did it wrong. Also, the camera is like very important here. The alternative is you just egg bounce or jump around the door. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, my camera was also kind of bad. And now we just do this set of jumps and rolls. And we're gonna go straight into this green hoop that takes us to the end of the level. They tell you that, like, the cats here have abducted the emblem and you have to kill them. And, like, everywhere in the level, there's, like, a bunch of cages that contain cats. And, like, you are led to believe that you have to open all of the cages and kill all of the cats, but you really don't have to. It's only that one specific cage that you have to kill all of the cats in. And that's the level. And thankfully there is the shortcut right to the end of the level, because if you don't take that shortcut, it's actually a very long stage, even if you don't kill the cats. Coming up to Circus 5, this is the only level that is not the first level of a world where it's actually night. And we're gonna bring a firework to a cannon. The firework dies instantly if it touches anything. So that's a bit of a problem. But thankfully, this is a go wherever you want type of game. So we can just do this. And we can also do that and miss it. The timing on that hoop is pretty awkward. You have to jump like deceptively late. And you have to make sure you don't hit any of the cats when you back it up, because you will die instantly if you do. This is also kind of scary, but okay. And I believe this is supposed to be the fastest level by in-game time in the run. It's not the fastest level by real time because it does contain the cutscene here. But yeah, normally that's supposed to be like 19 seconds or so, which is pretty good. Next we're gonna build a snowman. Very classic idea. I think I've seen a screenshot of a review for this game from when it came out, where they were like, oh, a level where you build a snowman, very original. And this game rips off Mario 64 everywhere. And it's kind of true. But yeah, we're just gonna build the snowman. It's not like Mario 64. We're actually gonna build the snowball ourselves by collecting all of the snow. You have to make sure that you don't touch anything again, just like with the firework, because if you do, the snowball will poof instantly. And also, like, it's kind of annoying to try again if you don't restart the level, because you will run out of snow. So that's kind of irritating, but there you go. That's the level. The blizzard levels are generally considered the easiest part of the run. There's really not that much to them. Also not really any tricks or anything. We just do them and they are kind of fast, so I guess this is another great time for donations. And the next level we're finally going to save Bantam as promised. Another level where we are not going to take the intended route. Normally you're supposed to go all the way around, and then there's like a really cool section where you like jump through a set of like ice windows from the top. And it's actually kind of cool to break them, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to go this way, which I think is what you're supposed to do, but now we're going this way, which is not what you're supposed to do. And then we can do this trick where we bounce off of those trees, which is actually very easy. Anyone could do that. And now we're gonna roll into this window. And boom. Like, you can't really see it. Like, normally you're supposed to come from the top. I can't really turn the camera to show you. But yeah, this is an alternative way of doing it, I guess. And that's how you do this level in half a minute. Well, normally it's supposed to be sub half a minute, but that's still close enough, I guess. The next level is another race level, which I guess is the definition of an auto-scroller. You know what? I'm actually gonna save here because there's like a 0.000% chance the game might softlock on the emblem here. Which has famously happened in one of the any% tournaments for this game that we had on Sesa events. But you're never supposed to see it. No one knows what causes it exactly. I guess it's just because it's a very well-made game that it can happen. Also, like, it doesn't matter if you use the left side or the right side here, because it is literally an auto-scroller. The perfect time here is a 39.63, for which you have to get the instant jump after the talk, which is easier said than done. You also have to get perfect talks. I guess the only thing you can do to speed this up is you can talk to her kind of early, before she lands. If you stand in the right spot, and, well, you can do that earlier than that, but not too shabby. Should be like a 39.8 probably. Yeah. Not too shabby. Next is Dino 8, which is the fastest level by real time. We're gonna do a box clip, which is well, normally it's called a corner clip. You can do it in basically any corner where there's a wall to your left side. It's a trick that you don't really see because there are always faster methods and it's kind of very situational, but basically if you walk off a ledge and you get back up, your position will shift slightly to the left. So if there's a wall to your left, you can clip through it that way. There's a very conveniently placed box for that here. And with Bantam, you can actually just jump and grab the ledge and do it. And the reason that works is because of how thick he is. Because he has such a massive hitbox, you will get that the position shift automatically. Because normally you have to jump onto the box and then slowly walk off of the box. And it's actually kind of difficult to set that up fast. So luckily with Bantam you can just do that. Which makes for a very fast level indeed. We're gonna do another Bantam mission, which is yet another auto-scroller. And that'll get us to 25 emblems. This is the race against King Bibu. Which is actually like relatively tight if you're not that good at the game, or if you do the intended route. We're not gonna do the intended route. Also what we're gonna do is we're gonna wait at the start, just to make it a little bit easier for him, because we're gonna beat him so badly. So the reason I'm waiting there is because there's a mechanic that's known as the Bibu trip, which means that like at the beginning of the level, Bibu can trip over a rock or a crate or something like that. And if that happens, you will lose like 1.5 seconds or so, because like he will literally stop and then he has to like catch back up. And that doesn't happen if you are far away enough that the object that he trips over doesn't get loaded. So if you wait there at the start, you will avoid the Bibu trip every single time, because the crate just doesn't exist in the first place and he never trips. Maybe it's just some debris, I don't know what it is, it's something. But yeah, ideally we should finish the level in 1 minute 3 seconds. If you get the Bibu trip, you finish it in 1 minute 5 seconds normally. This is definitely the longest race level, but still a relatively fast level, all things considered. There are some levels in this game that take multiple minutes. There is one in 90%. Actually, there are two in 90%. Dino 2 is also really long because of the Topo boss fight. So I think in real time that level is probably longer than 5 minutes. The longest level is the final level. This is the second to last level, Sand 3. We finally have 25 emblems, so the chicken will let us, or maybe the chicken god will let us beat the level, because we are courageous enough. There's a trick at the start called KaiGU, which stands for Chiron's Groovy Underground. You're supposed to hit that switch, which opens this door here, which takes you to the underground. We're not really going to worry about that, we're just going to do this. And hit the switch. Basically, I just did a roll there, got up on a platform, and then did a dash jump. It's kind of tricky because you have to do it blind, but The timing is not that bad if you get used to it. There's also a rumble cue that you can use if you want to use controller rumble, but no thanks. I am not going to do that. There's a really tough trick in this level coming up called statue jump, which is really cool because this is always the second to last level. And it's so awesome and fun to do a trick like this when you've been playing for 1 hour and it's like the only thing that's left, basically, and it's really hard, and the entire run depends on it. We're gonna jump onto this torch, which is kind of hard. Now we're gonna go over here. Now we're gonna jump this way. Normally you have to go down the slide. And statue jump saves like 7 seconds or so, I hear. Also, this wall doesn't exist. That was the chicken that I mentioned. And that's the level. This is the room that we've seen like 6 times already in all of those cutscenes. And now that we're here and we have 25 emblems, we can unlock the Rainbow Gate, which will take us to a giant palace, which is where the giant egg is, which is what we're trying to save or something. We're not going to be very successful, but I guess we're still saving the day or something, I don't know. One more level left. It's supposed to be like 6.5 minutes from this point, I think, typically. Giant Palace is the longest level, or Palace 1 is the longest level in any percent, just because of the final boss fight. This is the only instance in the entire game where the boss fight is in the first mission of a stage. Of course, there's 2 phases, which is why it's kind of long. The level itself is also relatively long, but not for us, as you might have guessed. We're gonna do a KBC off of one of these cats here. Maybe we won't. I'm restarting because I've already attracted the cat there, and that kind of fails it. Okay. I don't know what I'm doing right now. Alright, we're through. That wall is actually really annoying because the hitbox is kind of deceiving, and like the texture doesn't really agree with where the collision actually is. I'm really hoping the fruit doesn't spawn inside of this thing. That's fine. We're gonna place the egg there. We're gonna take the second egg. And we're gonna do, I guess, a sign bounce off of this little pillar here. And by hitting the other egg, that's gonna give us a lot of height. So we can get up onto this platform. You're not supposed to be here in this level. There are other missions where you go up here, but we can use this to go to the very end of the level, which is awesome. And now all that's left is the final boss. Alright, so Dark Raven, right? There's a mechanic that they introduce in Palace 1 where you get these like puddles of icky paint-like goop or whatever it is. Malice, I don't know. And you have to clear them. And you have to clear everything. If you don't clear absolutely every single pixel, they will respawn after some time. And that's also a mechanic in the boss fight. We have to clear one of the puddles. He will spawn 2 in this phase, but you can ignore the second one. The reason this is kind of annoying is because they can overlap. And the problem with overlap is that if you start clearing the second one, or like if you touch any puddle, like it will start a timer basically. And after the time runs out, it will respawn. And if like 2 puddles are overlapping and you're trying to clear one of them, the other one that it overlaps with will respawn after some time, and that'll also make the other puddle that you are clearing respawn as well, if they have overlap. So ideally you want to clear them like from the outside to the inside and do the overlapping parts last. if you do the overlapping parts first and then you go to the outer edge, then the other puddle might respawn. But yeah, that's it basically. In this phase, he spawns 4 of them and you have significantly less time than in the first one. And the strategy is ideally, you want to clear the puddle that's opposite of him when he spawns them, just because he will do like a half circle rotation around the arena, and you don't want him to be above a puddle because you can't actually, well, you can take damage as long as the puddle is out. Like the hitbox stays there for a very long time, even when the texture isn't there anymore, the hitbox is still there. So you have to wait before you can hit him if he's like above a puddle, so you want to clear them ideally, so that you can hit him as soon as you can. There's also some luck involved with like how much he travels around the arena. Finally, of course, there's a second phase. We're gonna try to get hit here because that triggers the next phase, I suppose. He took away our chicken soup. Without the chicken soup, we can't actually control any of the eggs. Like, you can't pick them up. Like, you can't pick them up anymore. You can't push them anymore. So that's kind of annoying. Fortunately, God is gonna help us. He's gonna give us a new chicken suit. And now we can convert these balls of darkness into pure light or something like that. And this is also pretty ridiculous that this is in the game, because the window to catch these balls is like 2 or 3 frames. But there's a trick where if you take damage like that, you get like 20 frames, where you can just mash and then it's super free. But like if you want to time that normally, it's actually really hard, and they kind of expect you to do that. So there are many reasons why a lot of people have never finished this game, and that is certainly one of them. But the main one is probably Circus 1. Also, I think Raven 1 is typically the harder fight for most people. He has 2 attacks that he cycles between. Also, he's gonna turn off the lights now. Just don't get hit. There are 2 more phases, or like this is the second to last phase. We're gonna make sure to get hit by the ball. Shoot him with the light. And we're gonna do that one more time, and then that's time. I guess a 1 of 7 is actually fine for a marathon run. Especially if I have to talk the entire time, because this game is so much more difficult when you have to talk over it and explain it at the same time. That's too much to think about. But yeah, that's the game. That's Billy. It's a pretty fun game. Pretty cool. Definitely a Sega All-Star. I mean, he is in Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, so that's how you know. Also, I guess I should say this at some point. I will write it in the description, unless it doesn't fit. For all levels, you have to watch the cutscene, because Palace 2 through 8 are locked behind the cutscene. Like, they are basically post-game content, and you have to watch the cutscene to unlock them. You cannot skip the cutscene or the credits. This cutscene is pretty long, and then the credits are also like 5.5 minutes, so that's like almost 7 minutes of downtime. You can include the credits in the marathon run. I think that has been done in the past. But what we can also do, which is not allowed for actual runs, but I guess it's fine for a marathon run, is you can prepare a second file that is saved right after Palace 1, so you can reset the game and then load the second file and then continue playing off of that. So you skip this cutscene and skip the credits, which is not something you can normally do. Like, you have to watch it. And also, even on a completed file, you have to watch this cutscene and the credits every single time, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's Billy. Thanks for watching. And consider us. Also, for the marathon, I don't think I said this, maybe I did, but what I would like to do is I would let other people commentate so I can focus on the game. I think I still play it alright, considering I couldn't exclusively focus on my gameplay, but it is the type of game where I would really like to focus. And like my experience from past marathon runs that I've done is, if I have to do all of the talking, it will go wrong. There's a pretty infamous Phineas and Ferb run I've done at some point that suffered from me having to talk a lot. So you're gonna hear other people. But yeah, that's Billy. It's a good game. Bye.